All right, testing, 1, 2, 3. What's going on, fellow rogues? It's Maskmare here, and today I've kind of got something that I'm doing that I haven't done in a very long time. Outside of one vlog that I did, like when I announced that I was like going to be completely, focusing on YouTube content and no longer streaming on Twitch some time ago. So last time other than this, basically I used to do like vlogs like quite a bit, like back when I did Let's Plays on this channel years ago. But this is one that I kind of felt was a bit mandatory because, as I've said before, when you guys like come by and you watch my content, giving your time to this channel, and on some occasions actual monetary donations outside of time. Yeah, I'm trying to collect my words here, just bear with me because it's been like a lot of I'm trying to process in my head like as I'm going along with this. And also, again, I don't really do vlogs that much. When you got like a video game in front of me and I'm doing commentary based on that, or I'm like got something to kind of like bounce off of with my friends when we're going banner at each other doing multiplayer stuff, it's a lot easier for me to do content. But just talking like this, just on its own, is a bit of a challenge, even after years of doing live streaming. But anyways, the point is, be it your time or your money, that's both that's sacred to me. Because y'all could be like giving either of those to like any other of the thousands, possibly millions of content creators out there. But you give my content a chance, so I hold that in high regard. And so when things are going on, it's really affecting like my content. I feel like you guys deserve to know. Even though I kind of have like spoke about things to some extent on previous streams when like the issues have come up, and also in my community posts and also my Discord server. But the issue that I'm of course addressing is basically things came to a head yesterday. Me, Amberwolf17, and Eldranox, we were doing a live stream, Phasmophobia. And about an hour in, I had to stop the stream because people next door, my neighbors, I really don't like calling them that, they, basically were just making a whole bunch of noise. And I feel like I've got like a decent, setup for my microphone. That I've got like a Rode Pod mic, and I've also got like a Rodecaster Duo. And it's got a pretty solid noise gate on it, considering the fact that I've got like a ceiling fan that makes like a little bit of noise from it, like moving around because it's a little loose. My PC's fans, especially when I'm like, going live with a game, or like I'm playing a game, and also my air conditioner in my bedroom back there, which even with it being in the other room, it's still a little bit loud. You guys barely hear any of that, but the other stuff has been problematic. So I had to end my Phasmo stream yesterday because two of the people next door were just standing out on their porch. So they don't have like a whole house they can go in and talk in, and go inside the house and talk. But two people were like, were standing, on the porch next door, just talking very loud, only 3 or so feet away from each other, standing right next to each other, talking. And I was really concerned it was gonna get picked up on my mic. I try to like give like as good of a, I try to like go for what I hope is at least a passable audio video experience for my viewers. So obviously, there's things that are going to happen on stream when you're live, things you can't help. But when it's things like that that are coming up, when people are making like a bunch of noise, and I'm worried it's going to pick up on the mic, and if it doesn't pick on the mic, it's still the whole matter of it just being a disruption when I'm trying to focus on the game. It gets irritating, especially when this has been going on for months. I think it's been probably about, I want to say over 8 months now. I've kind of lost track of time just because all I know is it's been going on for a while. But I have, like I said, I've talked about things in passing, but not really the full extent entirely to a lot of what's going on. And again, I feel like you guys should know. Again, I'm doing this vlog, for that. So these people pretty much moved in like months ago, as I said. And at first, the area around here was very peaceful. We have like there's like another couple neighbors around here. Never really bother anyone. One of them comes over here and mows the lawn periodically. Really nice guy. I've known him for a long time, but things were peaceful at first. But then when they moved in, like with what I'm gonna say now is probably like a former family friend, considering like the runaround he's given us on like how all this has gone, and, like what's happened. Um, they moved in with him, and ever since then, it's been excessively noisy over here. It's one reason why I recently announced like I was gonna try to go back to doing like a proper actual schedule like for my streams, like give like at least like a rough base on like when I was gonna go live each day for you guys. So that way hopefully it'll give you all like more of a chance to know when I'm gonna be streaming. And I can't even do that because of the factor that it seems like every day, morning time they're making noise, afternoon they're making noise, nighttime, they're making noise. And the some of the worst of what's happened. It was weeks ago that I was like, in my room, like, trying to rest. It was like 1 a.m. and like they were making noise outside. Like someone got dropped off, and I pretty much, anyone like who watches my streams knows how laid back I usually am, just like how I am right now. I don't like, usually when I get loud, it's just mostly from like if like something in a horror game spooks me, or me and my friends, when we're doing a multiplayer game and we kind of like, get to like something very funny happens with us sabotaging each other or something else, to where like there's a whole bunch of laughs and hysterics. At times, me literally ending up on the floor. So I'm usually, this channel for the longest time has been like a very laid back area, like laid back space. Back when I streamed on Mixer, there were people that were saying like they love coming to my stream because like it's just like like a calm spot. They can just come in, just just chill out and just just hang out. And this isn't taken in like in this isn't taken away from like streamers that you have like very hype chats and very hype channels that teach their own on what you do. It's just my channel, just that's not how things are here. It's just like a very laid back experience. Like I said, different creators have different types of content. I'm not bashing those who do have like more hype streams, hype chat and everything. But it's just here, it's always like kind of been more of a, again, very laid back. The point I'm trying to get to before it gets like too long in the tooth is that when a lot of the times when I've had to go on a BRB, I'm gonna go and admit to this, it's been one of two things, because that's one of the main things that's been like a disruption in my streams with them being loud. I end up going on a BRB. A lot of times it's been in hopes that they're just gonna calm down, and then I can go ahead and like and come back to the stream once they're finished being loud. But several of the times it's actually been because I've been the exact opposite of this calm nature that I show on this channel, with me voice my frustrations very loudly. A lot of times, like especially like that one time, like when again recently, it was like one night, 1 in the morning, someone like got dropped off, like out like over there next door, like they were picked up or dropped off. They were out there making a whole bunch of noise. And then like that same same day, same night, whatever, someone else like was dropped off around 3 a.m. and they were continuing to do so. And the first time I yelled out like it's 1 in the morning, a little bit more let's just say that wasn't verbatim for what I actually said. And then when they did it again, I yelled out for them to shut up, and it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth admitting that this is basically how it's gotten. I'm basically being open about me being pretty frustrated off stream in ways that people probably like things like, oh, it's like I didn't think like they probably like look at me. It's like he really doesn't seem like the kind of person that would be like that. And again, it's just been due to me being very, very, very fed up with it. Because it's been like a few other times, stuff like this has happened. I'd be live, they'd be loud. And I don't know if it might be a possibility that since like the former friend, he knows that I live stream, I don't know if he says something to them about this and they hear me over here streaming and they intentionally try to be loud. I'm not gonna like try to go into some kind of tin hat, conspiracy thing like, based on that. I mean, and Rule 17 even said that she wouldn't be surprised if like, possibly some of them found my channel and they're like, they're getting notifications when I go live for them like, to come out and be loud. And I don't think it's really like personal attacks against me. At least it wasn't at the start before I started being loud against them. I think they do it intentionally. But it's just, again, was a quiet area. They moved over here. And since then, it's been like a constant thing, where they've been very noisy all hours of the day, all hours of the night. And, there's been like a lot of times that, where I pull all-nighter, trying to get some stuff together for this channel. And I'll be, in there resting, like, I'll admit, like, middle of the afternoon. I've made it no surprise, that there's been like a lot of times that I've showed up for a stream very sleep deprived because I've been trying to like, work on stuff behind the scenes for this channel. But I've been there trying to like, sleep in the afternoon and they'll be loud. And yeah, I get it. It's like, okay, well, things is middle of the afternoon or whatever. I can't really fault people for, being loud like at that time of day and everything, And I'm not like, trying to like, say I don't like want people having their freedom of speech. But it's more of a matter of, respecting that, you're sharing an area with other people who, by all accounts, aren't being anywhere near as loud as you are. There's a difference. But like my thing is when I'm streaming, obviously I'm pretty sure they can't hear me inside, hear me unless they come outside, because kind of give like a little bit of idea on like, the proximity of the houses. Their front porch, like my window, like right here, you can literally see like the window. You see like I'm like playing with the blinds. That's like how close my window is right here. The window is my window, my streaming room right here is probably about within 15 feet of the front door of the house next door. So it's like it's adjacent to their their door. And so like whenever they come up with a car, like a car comes up in the driveway, it's literally like probably about maybe 5 or so feet away from my window. Like it's a bit exaggerated more than that, probably about like maybe like 8. But anyway, the point of that is that they're close enough to where when they're outside making noise, there's a good chance it's going to get picked up on here. And, and with them knowing how close like a house is to them, that should kind of like, dictate, to them, like just that maybe, they should keep that, especially like when they're having complaints, the landlord himself, even knowing like, how, bad they've been and he's like been getting on them about and they continue. That's where it becomes more problematic. The issue wasn't originally them being in this area. It's just the fact that they can't respect that others live around here. Like, cause I talked about like the car, like the person, like, who was like, talking to like their friend or whatever on the, like being loud with their friend on the porch, like yesterday, he caused me to like to delete my stream or like, shut my stream, like, just, delete my Phasma stream from the channel. Basically in regards like the proximity stuff I was just talking about, in regards like how close, everything is. So with them, whenever they park the car, like literally they can they can step out the driver's side and then like probably they can like walk 2 steps and they can step up on the porch. They can start get on the steps to go up the porch. So one of the main issues that's been happening, for the longest time is that they'll pull up in the driveway and they'll honk the horn to try to get someone to come outside instead of, like texting them, like, just, basically texting the people to come out. Or just like, taking that very short walk up the steps, like to knock on the door, and I get it for the sake of convenience, you honk the horn, it's going to like, be like, that's going to basically get someone's attention immediately. But again, when you're living in an area where there's other people like in close proximity, that's where, it becomes like more of a nuisance than anything, especially when you're doing it like constantly, just about every day. I feel like, cause Mickey D343, he lives in the same town as me, and when he comes like and gets me for us to go somewhere, like go out of town or something, or go get some pizza or something like that, he never like honks his horn or whatever. He texts me when he's on the way. He'll text me when he's on the way, and again, if he's out there, if I, he'll either like do either or both. He'll like text me when he's on the way, and then maybe text me or like call when he's on the way, or text me when he's on the way, and then do so again when he arrives. So like, if I'm not already outside, just let me know he's there. But again, he, that's obviously a way where it doesn't bother anyone, and it's only like probably like a few seconds like indifference, like, from like if you're like, honking a horn to get someone's attention. Or, you just like call them. So that's like, where the one most problematic, matters has been with this whole thing. And one reason I'm kind of talking about all this is because, again, it's been pretty obvious how much it's been affecting my streams, my stress levels at times. One reason I went on vacation recently and went up to, went to go and spend the week, spend a week, with Amber Wolf 17 and Rocket Nachos at their house was to get away from all this. And I told Amber and Rocket, and I was like, as soon as I get back home, this is just gonna start all over again. And I wasn't even home one day, and it was basically, back to the same stuff that was stressing me out. And again, I'm talking about all this, trying to speak on the best I can, because I feel like, again, those of you who like, come by this channel, watch my streams, give your time to my streams, at times, like, those who are paid subs on here, those who have donated, like done like super chats, and who have also just done like, donations directly to my Ko-fi. You deserve to know why, the channel, isn't like up to the best it can be that you're giving your time and money to. I feel like I'm obligated to explain these things to the best I can. And, it's very frustrating. Again, it's been hard for me to try to like find my words properly for all this, but that's a lot of what's going on, but things kind of came to the head the other day as well. And that, someone else that came up out there, and there's this one person that's been showing up next door, like going like showing up like over there to see them, who has like the most obnoxious way they've gone about like announcing their arrival. Like they'll blow their horn before they even actually stop in the house, and so they'll basically be blowing the horn coming down the street, passing other houses, so being a nuisance to them. And when they came by the other day, what basically happened was they honked the horn once when they kind of like got outside. They weren't even actually fully stopped yet. They honked the horn once. No one came out. They pulled up a little bit closer to the driveway, honked the horn again. No one came out. Then they did that, this loud, that loud, obnoxious honk I was just talking about. And I finally had enough of it right here, and I just yelled out at the top of my lungs, and I'll just go and say, is that what I said? I told them, enough of the fucking horn. And the reply, I heard them reply to this one. Reply to me. They replied, shut your ass up, while they were driving off. And here's my take on that. When you go into an area, go to a neighborhood that you don't live in, and even if you did live there, just like the people that live next door, they ain't got no reason to be loud all the time like the way they are. When you go into an area you don't live in, and you're like, consistently every single day coming by honking a horn to announce, to people that you're going to see that you're there, instead of like, just getting on your phone and texting them saying, hey, I'm on the way, or texting before you even leave the house, because I don't condone anyone texting while driving, or calling before you leave, or at least like when you get in your car, like at your house and say, hey, I'm on the way. Let them know they're ready, to be ready and everything, you're on the way. Say you're doing that, you show up and you honk a horn. Or, you don't just like do like, the other thing you can do, which is just get out of your car, walk a few feet up to their door and knock, to get them to come out. And you're coming up, every day, you're doing, like every time you come over, you're honking this horn, being a disruption to people who live there, people who are paying rent to live there. You don't get to tell them to shut their asses up, when they are voicing that they are just tired of you doing it. It's basically, it's kind of like in a sense, I know this is a more extreme measure, but, you don't cut your finger and then like jump into shark infested, I don't even want to say shark infested water, because when humans like jump in shark, like it's not shark infested. When people swim in water, it's human infested, because that's shark's domains. But now I can try to argue semantics here. You cut your finger intentionally and you jump into like, water where there's like with a shark and it bites you. You don't get to blame the shark. You blame yourself for doing that. I know that's a very, weird, like, like concept there, in comparison, or just comparison. But that's the point of it. They want to like, tell me to shut up, but I live here. They don't. They, are coming around here making all this noise that's unnecessary and being very obnoxious about it. And so they don't get to be upset when someone else is upset over what they're doing, when they are coming around disturbing, that person's peace. So, yeah, it's just, the thing is, it's like, obviously it's been very frustrating, and that's basically like what I've just continuously been trying to voice in this little vlog here, which is the way they've been acting over there. It's caused me to delete several streams. Some of you may not have noticed it, but there's been several streams from this channel that were deleted, and I had to like do another episode. The plan was with Phasmo was that the episode that we did yesterday, that was gonna be episode 49, and then when the devs of Phasmo released the next big update this month, we were gonna commemorate that with like, the official level, like, episode 50. But now if we want to do that, we're gonna have to like do another stream of Phasmo, which probably maybe just be this weekend. Maybe we'll just do that this weekend and still be able to do episode 50 when on the 24th. But had to delete that stream. There's other ones I've had to delete and then start right back up because of them, over there, doing that. And again, I know that not everything's picked up on the mic, but a few times like the horns have. I know not everything else has, but I never know when something is going to. And like I said, I want to try to have like the best audio and video experience for you guys. I know there's times like I definitely get caught on my words. I stutter at times because of how quickly my brain processes words before my mouth actually can say them. So there are times I'll stutter like just like how I've been doing there this vlog. You guys like see how fast I talk and everything. So point of that is that my streams aren't perfect. No one's streams are, but there are like things that I know I can't really do anything about at my end. But there are like the things that frustrate me that are happening, outside, issues that shouldn't even be happening. And when things like this come up, when people are out there honking horns, talking loud, and at times me feeling like they're doing it intentionally because they hear I'm streaming. But again, I don't want to go in the whole like 10, foil hat thing on that. It gets frustrating. I know that my frustrations have been showing on streams, and I don't want anyone like who's hanging out my chat to think it's them. But I do, of course, rationalize and understand, that when I'm going on several BRBs because of this, I don't blame people for leaving. I don't blame, people that are watching my channel for leaving because, there's all these, consistent breaks right here. Or not, or just inconsistent, I'll say. But, there's multiple times that a break happens in the stream. It's like, okay, yeah, he's back. Okay, we can continue like with the gameplay. And then it continues to happen. They're like, really? I mean, I know I can't like really vouch for what everyone thinks or says, but what I'm basically saying is like those who have left because my channel and left like my streams and possibly people who maybe even actually unfollowed over it. Who's to say? But that's one reason it gets frustrating because it's things that I can't really control, but also don't like really I don't really what the word say blame. It's like 8 a.m. guys. I just woke up a little while ago, getting ready to go to the gym in a bit. But I don't blame people for leaving, when things like that continue to happen. But it shouldn't be happening. So, like I said, it's been hard, like really trying to collect my thoughts about all this. Trying to figure out the best way to say everything. But that is like a lot of like the issues that have been going on. The people next door, just horns all hours of the night, which hasn't happened a lot lately. But because there was one other time I forgot to actually talk about where it was a few nights after the 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. thing where I like yelled out on both those different both occasions in one night, when they were coming up like being loud. Those few nights afterwards, the someone came up, and another thing that's kind of been a frustration about this whole situation is that I got like my I have like my yard is like my yard right out there. There's like like a area like of grass like along like a line there. And there's been like times where people will go over and like and visit them, and they'll park right out there in front of the house instead of like going and pulling up in their driveway over in their yard for whatever reason. And that's something that's also been very irritating, especially times they've come up blasting music. But there was a few nights after the 1 a.m. 3 a.m. thing where someone came by honking a horn 3 a.m. 3 a.m. ish or whatever. And so once again, I yelled out enough of the horns, and they continued to honk the horn again afterwards. And someone came out. And I'm guessing my thing is I know there's like some teenagers that were living over there, so I'm wondering if it could have been that they were just like trying to sneak out. Which my thing is, the person's gonna pick you up is blowing a horn. You're not really being sneaky. That's almost that. I mean, that's almost like to me the equivalent of like a ninja like having horns on his feet. But it's just I'm hoping that things may hopefully sometime soon die down. Because, like I said, all between like all the stress I've shown on my streams, like when I've had to go on a BRB, come back and explain to you guys what's going on, you can just kind of see. I know you've been able to see like the frustrations, and it's obviously affected my content. When it's continuously happening, and I can't like stay focused on the game we're playing, which definitely gives me some current concerns for the fact that I announced one of my recent community posts that D&D is eventually going to start coming back to this channel, and that's going to be definitely one of the main times that horns and loud talking isn't gonna like really fly because with me and Dave are like right there just talking like doing the D&D stuff, like no background noise, just us talking. Obviously that's gonna make it more likely that horns and people like next door like being loud and everything's gonna pick up. And the last thing I want is for people who are watching like the D&D streams to be immersed in the story that Dave's telling, and then all of a sudden you hear brrrk, dramatic reenactment of a horn. But that's the last thing I'd want. And also, of course, it can affect things for this as far as the story is concerned, as far as like me and Dave trying to focus on it. Because chances are, if it picks up on my end, Dave's gonna be able to hear it, and that could like throw him off on the story he's trying to tell when he's got something together. So, again, I'm hoping things may change. There's been like the reason why the guy next door that was originally our family friend that they moved in with. The reason why I'm not really too fond of him anymore is because he said multiple times, "Oh, they're gonna be moving out. They've done this, they've done that. They're gonna be gone." And that was like several months ago. And I feel like, there's even been a few times where he has been out there being loud himself. So he's basically part of the problem at this point. And the landlord had said that give till Wednesday or whatever. So I'm guessing he's got something like he's hopefully trying to work with, trying to do. 'Cause I know that he had after he was told about like how this all continued because the whole thing was like he didn't really he said he thought things got better because no one got in touch with him, but it's because like it was thought that he was like handling things like he was already trying to handle things like he gave them like maybe like a 30 day like a 'cause I know like a lot of times with like when it comes to, like real estate like this when someone like is being evicted there's a certain amount of time that you have to give them and it was thought that was going on, but he said that he's gonna go over there. I guess he said, like, get back in touch with him by Wednesday. And I know that it was like the other day I looked out there and his truck was out there outside the house next door, but no one answered. Which also brings me to someone else, because it was obvious someone was there. Because as soon as he left, there's this person over there. Like I know there's like a lot of them. I basically talk about being loud. There's one in particular I just outright call loudmouth because what she does is she'll sit out there on the porch and she'll like get on a phone and she'll talk on speakerphone with people and she'll just my thing is that if you're like it's basically using a speakerphone the exact opposite of what it's supposed to be. She basically puts on speakerphone and just talks really loud. It's like if you're that desperate to be heard, take it off speakerphone, put it up to your head and like put it up to your ear and talk normally. The whole point of a speakerphone like is not like it's like she holds it like it's I guess it's like she holds it away from her. She puts on speakerphones just as an excuse to talk louder. I don't know, but she'll basically get on the phone and she'll walk all at one side of the street and then walk all the way like up the other side of the street. And I don't know, it's because like she's using that as she's basically doing that so she can like talk to people, talk about people in the house without them knowing or what. But but obviously when she's walking right by the house and being loud, that's also happened like during my streams at some points, and I've had to go on BRBs because of it. But the as far as all this is concerned, again, it's just been like very, very irritating. I've shown it on streams because it's been kind of hard to like hide, when it's basically just been like a very concerning matter when I've been live and I've been dealing with it. And it's something that I feel like I need to do this vlog to kind of like talk about it in detail because there's so many other things that have kind of gone on as far as all is concerned. But supposedly one of the other key aspects of this was that our landlord, like the landlord had said that they'd like put some money, they gave him some money to go towards like another house that he was going to be renting out to them. And so my take on it is that they're still here. They gave him this money, like, it's kind of like, I guess, like, payment towards like, being able to rent this place out. And the thing is, he hasn't given them any more, like when he says they haven't given him any more money since then. But yet I've seen them at the grocery store. I've seen them at Family Dollar. The person like drives the car, like not, when I was talking about, it always honks the horn whenever like they drive the car up and like right there in their own driveway. My thing is they can like they're leaving out like in that car like several times each days and gas ain't free. So point is that I'm pretty sure that they've got money they can spend or they got money to spare. So why aren't they putting any more of it like towards like this place he's supposed to be renting out to him? And I really do feel like what it is that they just wanted to kind of give him like a little bit of money like to hold him off for a while, but then like try to still stay over here as long as possible because they really don't want to go over to the other place that he's got renting out. He's renting out to them, but they also put the money down as it means I guess try to reserve it while they try to hang out over here as much as possible. But it's whenever they leave, hopefully if that ever happens, things will be a lot more peaceful around here. I know it's gonna definitely like be like a big sense of relief for me because again I left on vacation. This was like a key reason why I went off on vacation. I just didn't really say anything about it, but and I came back and then just like that, like everything like pretty much was like to the point where it's like instantly stressed out again. So it's been a problem for a while. I wanted to do this vlog to like kind of address things. Originally I was like saying I would probably just try to do a video, but my thing is that it's okay. Like it's not like I'm doing like a lot of my stuff like with my gaming montages where I'm putting like a lot of sound effects and everything in. So I just figured just for the ease of it, I just want to do the stream. So I won't have to worry about editing a bit, like just recording a video. I just like pretty much just do the stream and just have it already on the side immediately instead of me having to upload it. But it's mainly just been so frustrating because I love streaming. I've made it very obvious that I do. I've been like streaming for what'll be 9 years this coming up September. And for the things I've been through as a content creator, if I didn't love streaming, I would have gave up a long time ago. I've made it. I mean, I've spoken out like in different degrees about what I dealt with back when I streamed on Mixer. Back when I had there was an incident. I can't remember if I actually talked about it in my vlog. Where I had left Twitch and was focused entirely on YouTube. But there was an incident that happened where I was mob cyber harassed by another streamer in their group, and they went out of their way trying to cause like a lot of damage to to my name, and they succeeded. They went around like spreading a bunch of lies about me. It's just like a whole and it just completely just bellied up like my previous community that I had. And all this time I've been trying to rebuild. You guys can go and like read the blog on my website about it. I'm not gonna go into all details about it here, but I will say at the very least, because I did even after like collecting evidence where they had like outright admitted that they had people like watching my streams trying to find something like the falsely mass report me for and everything. It still was one of those things where even though I had like all the evidence right there, it's tough enough as is to rebuild, to build up once as a content creator. I had a lot going for me, like in just like my first year of streaming, like back from like 2016, 2017. I built up a lot, not anything like as far as like viral growth or whatever, but had more prominence that I've had in a while, like had since then. And again, it's really tricky like to rebuild a community, after you've already like rebuild things after you've already done so once. I posted like my current community post. I had like a little screenshot like when I hit 1,000 subscribers on followers on Mixer. And that's one reason why I've been like so dedicated to trying to get to 1,000 subscribers here on this YouTube channel. We're almost there. As it stands, we're about like only like 50 subscribers away at the moment. And I'm thankful for every single one of you who's made that happen. Because I'm someone who is having to again, it's hard enough as is getting subscribers, getting followers. And this is like it will be total the third time I've like done like 1,000 on a platform, because I did so on Mixer when I hit 1,000. I left for a while, came back, started over. I hit 1,000 again. And so if I do doing this will be the third time. Technically the third time I'll hit 1,000 on like a streaming platform. And it's something I wouldn't have been able to do without those who support me, which is why again it pisses me off when people are being disruptive, and I feel like it compromises the time and at times money that people are putting into my, towards supporting my channel, when I can't be at my best because of all this is going on. And again, I got like the noise gates on my microphone. I've got like all that set up. Not everything goes through, but I never know when something actually might go through, because there have been a couple times that Amber Wolf, said that she heard like a horn. And I know it's not the end of the world, because again, things happen in life. People would expect like things like that to possibly happen. Especially those that live in an area where maybe like it's constant that trains will be a thing or whatever. But this right here is something that by all accounts could be, and it couldn't, could not be a factor. It's just people being obnoxious next door and not respecting the others live around this space. So because going back to the other thing, as far as like me continuing like the stream like through all this, back to the mob cyber stalking thing, cyber harassment thing, I've continued to say that if I ever, I've been dedicated to live streaming because I've continued to say that if I do make something of this, I don't really care much about being, insanely famous or being loaded as far as money's concerned. I'm just trying to earn what I can, earn my way as a content creator, because I love doing this. Even though I want to make a career out of this, still there's that love and that passion there doing it, because just I love doing it. I love, sharing my, my gaming, my love for gaming, with people. Same with like me getting back into Pokemon cards, sharing that with people. And also just, you see right here, me sharing my love for, 90s culture, with people as well, and my little rants about Street Sharks, TMNT, and, Battletoads, Biker Mice from Mars and stuff like that. I basically, when people come by, I just want to be unapologetically myself as just a 90s kid, who loves video games, loves Pokemon, loves horror movies, and loves talking to people who have like-minded interests and things like that. I haven't lost any interest in any of that. I haven't lost my way on being that kind of content creator. But at the end of the day, it's just, this is still something I'm also looking at as a career. I got partnered back, last October, and I feel like when I can't stream consistently, I feel like I'm not putting my all in as a partner. I'm not putting my all into something I want to prove to people that I deserved, and that, and I want to try to embody as much as possible. And it's just like, with the 1,000 subscribers coming up on, I want to earn that. When I can't go live, when I can't stream consistently, I feel like it's a service to those, coming by here, supporting my channel, that I want to earn what I get. And if I, again, I don't really care about being like virally famous or being loaded as far as like, being rich or anything's concerned. My whole thing is that as long as I'm taken care of, as long as like, I can like maybe do stuff for my friends and what family I do claim and everything, that to me is all I really, ask for. And anything else I get will be like a bonus. And especially, after everything I've been through, as far as like, the mob cyber harassment, other stuff I've faced. And I keep on continuing to hope that one of the key things that happens with, this is that if I do make on this channel, my story can get out there as inspiration to others who have, dealt with the same thing. Because I'm not the only streamer out there who's been cyber, who's been harassed, mob harassed or been a victim of like, cancel culture, people wrongfully, going after someone who ain't done anything wrong just because they're jealous or whatever else. I'm hoping I can possibly be someone that could be inspiration to others who've dealt with the same thing and basically, be concept of, okay, yeah, they tried to destroy you. Don't let them. Keep doing what you love doing. Keep doing what you love doing and whatnot, because at the end of the day, if it's something you're passionate about, who's anyone else to say that, you don't deserve to, flourish in that? I probably could have worded that a lot better, but the point is that I'm hoping that what I went through is something that if I ever do make something of my platform, it can be inspiration for others to keep going, if they've dealt with the same. Because I know that the person in question that attacked me also went after other people. I just think like I was one of the main ones that actually stepped up to them and said, hey, I'm not going to back down and be walked over, walked on. So, yeah, I know I rambled here. I know like I've repeated a lot of things. I know that I made it very obvious what I said at the start, which is that it was going to be hard for me to get my thoughts out about it. But the point is, Rogues, is that I really do apologize for the times like on my streams, like, for a while now that it's admittedly things could have been better than they have been. It's not to take away from things, fully. I've still had like a lot of fun doing multiplayer stuff with my friends. When me and Rule 17 and Rock and Elden Knox like did the headliners, this past weekend, it was made obvious how much fun we were having. Past like, even though even at that point there were people out there talking loud, we still had fun. It's because it hasn't entirely like 100% roadblocked everything. I've still like enjoyed my content. I've still like had fun like streaming, but it definitely has been pretty obvious that it's been stressing me out. And I mean, hopefully they'll be gone soon. And I don't want this to be taken as like, me condoning like people end up homeless or whatever. Because I don't want anyone like, to end up out in the streets, homeless, or especially considering that that's actually kind of a fear of mine that could like in regards to me one day possibly, if it was I'm someone like me, that's actually a personal fear of mine in regards like, not want to end up homeless myself. But especially, given certain situations I've had, been having to deal with. But it's my take on it is that I don't want anyone ending up homeless without a place to live. But when you're showing up somewhere, when you go into like go into a neighborhood and you start showing out, like being completely disrespectful towards others there, and if you end up like losing the place you're living because of you being like constantly disturbing the peace, I'm sorry, but that's on you in the end. I don't want like at the very least, suppose they had like another house lined up through the landlord, so hopefully maybe they'll go over there and I know it sounds really harsh, but be someone else's problem. Actually, I wouldn't really want that on anyone else, but I guess like mainly I'm hoping that they'll go somewhere where they can be like this. They can like, be as loud as they want to be and hopefully not really disrupt much of anyone. I guess like, that's a better way to say it. But another thing also that hopefully this actually will be what will happen in the end too. It'll be kind of like the best of both worlds, which is that even if they do leave, there is a possibility that another place. I've kind of talked about this before. The possibility that I might end up like going to, like getting to move somewhere else, like find like going to another house that'll be bigger, and there might, considering what I was told yesterday, there might be a chance of something like that happening. Don't know when it'll happen and if it does, or if it'll happen. But I mean, best and like good case scenario would be that that place opens up, and if these people like next door like don't leave, or or they aren't like put out here like my landlord like said it was gonna happen. Well, like hopefully like there's no house that's gonna be lined up, and I can just go over there. It's supposed to be bigger, has more room and more rooms in general. So hopefully that'll be like a possibility, and so that way like either that way I won't have to deal with them anymore. Only problem with that would be like if that happens, it could be like months away. In that timeline, I'm still gonna be dealing with them. But the best case scenario would be if they end up like having to go somewhere else, and so means I'd be able to have like more peace on my streams, moving forward. and then like still have like that the other house like lined up to go to eventually. Because like I said, I like this place. It's not that bad per se, but one issue that I kind of have right here is I'm not gonna like change like I'm not gonna like move my webcam to show you, but I've got this desk I just got like like early last year, and it's got like a bit of a dip in the middle. And this and I feel like a lot of it is because there's a part of my floor where it's kind of got like a bit of a spot where it's kind of caving in a little bit, and the back legs of my desk over here, like it's L-shaped desk, so the back legs of it are kind of going down a little bit. So and it's causing like the wood to dip some, and it's bad when this isn't actually I think composite wood. It's actually is like just actual wood. This is the actual wood desk, and it's kind of dipping down some. So that's kind of been a bit of a concern. And also just right, if you guys have seen me kind of like do like show you, I'll just do it right here. You see me kind of do like you notice how like my you've seen me kind of do like that times during my streams. It's because there's this right here where I'm kind of pointing right here. There's a dip in the floor. There's like a little spot like where I don't. It's just like it's kind of like the floor's kind of like got like a little bit of a a indent, like a line right there where like one of my wheels can get caught in it, and I have to actually push it over like try to push it over as best I can, or just like or actually pick the entire chair up and move it just because like the wheel gets caught in this like this one little caved in spot. And I've just kind of been really concerned about eventually getting so bad that like the floor like fully caves in. Because when I first moved here, again, it's not a bad house. I like it. It's got great electricity compared to like one place I lived in a few years ago. It's got great electricity. And it's a cozy little spot. I love this house. Don't get me wrong. It's just that there are definitely some things here that were very questionable and like in how it was prepared. For me to move in. After like the last tenant was here, like it's like it feels like they didn't really do anything to reinforce like any of the floors, and instead they just got like because this isn't wood. Like what you guys are seeing right here, like what's what you guys are seeing is like this isn't actually wood paneling, like that you're able to see. This is all just like a just like I guess like a vinyl tiling or just like a vinyl panel, like one big vinyl panel that they slapped down like on the floor in here, and they did with a few other rooms in the house, and then just left it at that instead of like without even actually really trying to reinforce any of the floors. So I'm hoping that best of two case the two case like best case scenario for two different things happens here, which is that I do get to go to this house that is possibly going to get opened up. Like a possibility of it happening is going to be it will end in me moving getting to go over there because it's going to have like a few more rooms than this house has, like more space to it. Hopefully a bigger kitchen, considering my kitchen is kind of cramped, and hopefully it also will just be like in a spot where I think like if it's the house I'm thinking it is. It's like a little area where there's not really like a lot of other houses around, so it means even if other people in that area are by chance like a little bit loud or something, it's not gonna like cause any problems for like as far as my personal space is concerned. So hopefully that'll be a thing, but hopefully in advance before that, what the landlord had said about like this being addressed and to get back with him on it like Wednesday or whatever. Hopefully that'll be a thing, because I mean everything I'm saying isn't coming from a place of malice, but it's just when you move into an area and it's basically already, pretty much established that, you've been problematic for other people there and you're not making any efforts to change and you're continuing to be a problem. Yeah, I mean, if you end up getting evicted, then that's no one's fault but yourself. And like I said, I don't want anyone ending up out in the streets or anything, but again, suppose they have like a house lined up through the landlord, but it's just they haven't like given him any more money towards the house. And I really feel it's because they just want to kind of like just give like a little bit of a means to reserve it, reserve like the house, like reserve the place, but still just stay over here as much as possible because they want to be over, like be in this, they want to like stay over here compared to there. Which my take on it is that since they basically moved in with someone who's already staying here, I don't know why you'd want to like pass up a chance of like moving into your own spot when like especially with like how like the housing economy is right now where it's hard to find places to stay. Can't see like or at least like not reasonably priced. I can't see like why they wouldn't want to go ahead and pay like the rest of the money to the landlord and move on over there and just be done with it. Have their own spot where they can basically do their own thing without making people mad more than possibly. Who's to say? But like just have like their own space where they're not like having like to share it with someone else. For all I know, that may actually be because maybe they're splitting the rent with with like my former friend that lives over there. Maybe like they're splitting the rent with him, and so if they move over to the other spot, they're gonna have to pay more each month. But it's again, it's just been a whole mess, Rogues. Obviously, by like how like it has been bottled up so much to the point that like me trying to say it right here. Again, I suck at doing vlogs anyway, but the way I kind of like just try to say everything right here, it just all spewed out like all over the place like a soda can, like being punctured. And I'm definitely out of breath over it. But like I said, the main reason I wanted to at least try to explain things in some capacity, the best I could, while trying to collect my thoughts like in what way I could, is that you know I feel like my streams in ways have been a disservice to those who've come by here, giving their time and money because of all this going on, and so y'all deserve to know exactly, what is the reason why, for all the BRBs, sudden like abrupt ends to my streams, me outright deleting streams from the channel, and I'm hoping that things are gonna like become more calm at some point again soon, because previously, my talks of like wanting to like get this up, get to this other house aside, this neighborhood before like these people came along was extremely peaceful. Like, it was like just such a nice little spot. But then like, they move in and then you have like people coming in all like showing up all hours of the day and night, honking horns, sometimes at 1 and 3 in the morning, out there like, and then just being extremely loud, like without being being necessary, even when they're like standing next to each other, but they're talking like, they're trying to address a conference, like trying to like, address like a whole conference or something. Like literally people like only 2 feet away from them. But then like, they're having like, talking, just, still be excessively loud. I mean, I just don't understand it. But anyways, with that being said, guys, I said I was gonna like address things, and I think I definitely did. Hopefully I kind of got the point across on stuff. But again, like I love streaming. I love, doing what I do. It's just there's definitely been like some factors here that have made it very complicated. But, it's not gonna stop me from streaming. I just hate that this has gone on because it's anyway, vending always helps you, and when they're gone, your quality of life will skyrocket. Yeah. And like I said, it's just the main thing is, Jeremy, is I try like I want to trying to see if it's supposed to be showing up down there. Yeah, oh there it goes. Yeah, there it went. It was a little bit of a delay. Guess YouTube's API or whatever. And that's the thing, I try to keep this channel from being like that, like something like this. I don't like try to like air all my personal stuff like this on here. It's not really airing personal stuff, I guess. It's just mainly just explain like what's going on over there. So some might say I'm explaining their personal stuff, but at the same time, with how they're doing when it's affecting my personal space, and it's kind of like a bit of a free game thing on to explain what's going on, especially when it is affecting my content on this channel. And when people are like coming here and like and watching, watching me stream, and I can't like do things like consistently. But the thing is that I try like to keep this channel, stuff like this. I try to mainly use this channel, try to focus on my content here. It's the reason why, like, why sometimes when I'm doing a stream and someone comes in and asks, like, how are you doing? Like, I'll admit, things could be a little bit better, but I'm not gonna go into it, or I'll say, something along the lines of, at the start, like, it's been a bit of a day, Rogues, but I'm gonna focus on the content. I just basically gonna do it as a little heads up in case I seem like I'm not really at my best. This channel is by no means whatsoever like a positive vibes only place. And again, not knocking streamers that, go by that, as long as they're not being like, toxic with it. I'm someone who definitely, wants it to be like, when someone comes by, if one of my, friends comes in here and they're talking about, they want to talk about stuff that's going on or whatever, I personally would rather be they just text me, keep everything like kind of like personal between us instead of like, airing it out on the channel or whatever, basically, because not really just a sense of like, not time and place for it, but it's kind of like in a sense of just wanting to kind of like, keep them safe, I guess you can say. So that way, like people is like, oh, this person's having a bad day, I'm going to target them or whatever. I kind of think about things like that. Maybe it's overthinking it. But it's just like, when someone comes in, I'd rather everything just be about the content and with them knowing, hey, you got something going on. You can text me, message me, call me or whatever. But it's just, let's just, try to focus on this. And I don't want like, because I'm definitely not one of those, like I said, this isn't a positive vibes only place. I want at the very least want this to be a channel where when people come by, hopefully they're having a rough day, my streams can cheer them up a little bit. That's one thing that I really was happy about when my streams on Mixer. I got like a lot of messages from people. The post that I did yesterday where I explained I had like a bunch of positive things people said about my channel and my and me, back when I was on Mixer. A lot of them were messages from people saying that, when they came by my channel on there, they liked it was just like a place they could just kind of like just hang out and chill, and they were having a rough day. They could just, forget things for a while and just, see someone play some of their favorite video games or video games they were interested in. And you know, and that basically is one of the key things that's kept me going over the years, like knowing I didn't make that impact on people and hoping at some point, like I'll be able to continue to do, like I'm hoping I'll be able to continue to do so, and maybe to an extent be able to do so to the extent that I did before, like the whole cyber harassment thing. But again, that's something you guys can go and check out the blog for on my website because I'm not going to go in all that here. But hopefully next time, if I ever actually do a vlog, if I do a vlog again, I'll have like, you know, more control of like, you know, more of a sense of control, like, you know, what I'm talking about as far as like structure is concerned. Because I think I got everything mostly out I wanted to say. Just it was like all over the place with saying it. But like Jeremy said, you know, if you know they end up like going something like moving out. I know that I'll definitely, you know, be, you know, happier, like, you know, knowing that when I stream, I'm not going to worry about all the horns, all the disruptions and everything. But it's just at the moment, this is definitely like, you know, a factor of things that's very, very frustrating. And I'm hoping it does end soon for the sake of like the time you guys put like into watching my streams and also for my stress levels in regards to putting content out for you without having to worry about like, you know, just a random horn coming out of nowhere and forcing me to either, you know, forcing like, you know, the stream to kind of like, you know, basically just not be as good as I want it to be. And also welcome in Amber. So, I know I ran a lot here. I know that I definitely, you know, have like a lot of things that I just threw out there, just very, very, you know, quick. But it has been a problem, Rogues. And I've spoke about it in passing, like I said, in community posts on my Discord server. I've discussed it with my friends and everything, and they know firsthand exactly how stressful it's been on me. And I've tried to put on a mask, try to put on like, you know, keep like a straight face during my streams, like try to hide like how much it's been affecting me. But there have been a few people who have said, you know, James, you know, you look like you're really tired. You know, you look like something's on your mind and everything. And yeah, I've definitely had a lot on my mind. But you know, again, I'm forever thankful for those who've, you know, still stuck around knowing that I'm dealing with all this. And even those who don't know what's been going on, but who've still like stayed, you know, come by my streams. And even like knowing that I haven't been at my best, you know, they've still like, you know, hung out and, you know, reminded me, you know, why, you know, I love doing this, which is that, you know, I've got like, you know, some people, even if things aren't like anywhere near as, you know, prominent with my, you know, brand, you know, as they were like before, you know, back when I was on Mixer. You know, I'm still thankful for what I've got. You know, like that was on Mixer. I had a community on there called the Masquerade. You know, and it was a much bigger thing. We had like a lot more people in that community. People that like were much more active with showing up in my chat and everything. There was like a lot, you know, I had going on, like, you know, with that before people in question that I already spoke of caused everything to go like caused so much to go belly up. But I keep on having hope that, you know, as I continue to rebuild, like, you know, it's like there'll be like, you know, more and more semblances of like, you know, what that community was about in regards to like, you know, continue to build something bigger back up. And but again, it's been like really hard, like trying to rebuild after like, you know, again, it's hard like enough to, you know, build up as a streamer once, let alone like, you know, rebuild after like, you know, you already did so previously. But I keep on like, you know, trying to like remind myself of those who, you know, been in my corner, you know, who've stuck by me through the good and the bad, who've like, you know, seen like a lot, and again, who've seen like a lot of this going on lately, who know firsthand what I've been dealing with, what I've had on my plate, and they've still like, you know, motivated me to keep going, keep, you know, keep pushing, you know, closer and closer towards 1,000, you know, subscriber goal that we're coming up on, and just keep giving it everything I got as a content creator. So, again, hopefully all this will pass soon. Don't know if it will. The landlord, you know, just asserted like a couple days ago, okay, this is it, you know, this is gonna stop. We'll see if it stops, because I mean, this is like should have like no longer been a thing like, you know, a while ago. But overall though, Rogues, and I may just like, you know, once this kind of like runs the rounds a little bit, I was gonna think I might actually delete it. I'll probably definitely just kind of like keep it up, you know, on here, keep it on this channel. But just know that if you come by this channel, I seem like I've been in a rough mood, or, you know, you come by and said hey to me, and maybe like, you know, my, you know, how you, like when I've said how you doing back, or I've greeted you. If there's been any times where it seems like, you know, it's been like a little bit half-hearted, I promise you guys that it's nothing you've done. Like, it's a lot of it's just me still trying to go live, still trying to continue to do my thing and stay consistent while dealing with some very straight up, you know, saying it straight up, you know, some very fucked up stuff going on next door that just I wish this just wasn't apparent, just wasn't going on. And I think that's probably one reason for me, like, you know, not really being able to get this out like as controlled as how things are usually when I'm streaming. You guys have seen normally when I stream, I have like kind of a base idea of what I'm talking about. But here, it's definitely, been my words and like everything I've been saying has been like, thrown all around, almost like, dust in a vacuum cleaner inside of a vacuum or whatever. And like Amber said, I've been dealing with this for almost a year now. And I guess it's kind of like I said, it's how it is. Like when you're trying to get something out that's been bottled up and like you've had like a lot of pressure and you're trying to build, get out something that's been bottled up. It's gonna spew everywhere. It's just like how it is. Like if with this, I basically came to this stream instead of me just twisting the cap off the Coke bottle. I just like straight up just punctured it with a thumbtack because that's I guess that's one way to kind of put it. But I promise you guys that I don't know when it'll be, but I will be live streaming today. Again, I'm about to go to the gym. Thankfully, like one thing about like a gym, it's very therapeutic in regards to getting stuff off your mind and everything. So I'll be going and getting my, my first gym session of the week, started off, and then sometime today I'll be live with the next episode of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. I don't know if we're gonna be taking Blaine on just yet, because for understandable reasons, I haven't really had much of a chance to play, Let's Go Pikachu over the weekend to try to like get my getting water Pokemon leveled up. So I don't know exactly what we'll be doing today's stream. But if we don't go and take on Blaine immediately, I'll probably just go back to some of the other areas and maybe we'll just take on some trainers, like some little like trainers all over the place. But I may also just try to make sure that I mean, really, technically speaking, it really wouldn't take too much for me to like get like one or two Pokemon like ready to go. Take on Blaine, because I did get that Squirtle like a few episodes back. I went back and got the Squirtle from Vermilion City, so I could just try to level it up. Or I could like just like see what else I can work with. I got like a bunch from Pokemon Let's Go, Pokemon Go. I got like a few water Pokemon here and there that I could like use against Blaine. So, as Jeremy said, one thing to consider is that them keeping you up at all hours of the day is going to mess up every aspect of your life too. And that's basically, Jeremy. I guess that's kind of like really kind of speaks on itself, because it's definitely been like a butterfly effect, Rogue. Jeremy, I guess like kind of like just in his little like sentence right there, just kind of like really gave like so much emphasis, like so much of a clarity to how like just that right there just kind of gave a whole bunch of clarity to that, like how I've been trying to discuss everything, because they've been keeping me up all hours of the night, so it's been hard to sleep at times, and when you can't sleep, it makes it hard for you to stream. And I've definitely had some times I've struggled in the gym at a few points recently because I wasn't able to get adequate Atticus. Isn't Atticus a Pokemon character? I swear there's an Atticus. Now I gotta look it up. But when you're not getting adequate sleep, that's the word. So you take a W and you completely straighten it out and you get an L. Putting that in the word and you got sleep. Horrible attempt at very somewhat sleep deprived and annoyed humor aside, Rogues. What Jeremy said kind of like hit the nail on the head. And that, when you're not getting like adequate sleep, got it right that time. See, y'all over there like trying to think I can't form a sentence. How dare you? When you're not getting adequate sleep, obviously then that affects when you're trying to stream, and when you can't stream, and obviously that means like if you can't stream, well, or like basically if you can't sleep well, you can't sleep, you can't like stream to the best. And when like they're not to mention like when they're continuing to be a nuisance when you're live. So when they're a nuisance when you're offline, and then they're doing so when you're live, that definitely like is a 1-2 punch there too. Yeah, and that's another thing, because we were doing like a watch party in Discord yesterday, like, and we couldn't even do that because how loud they were being outside. Like me, Amber, and and Elginox, we were like trying to watch Doctor Who, and like she said right there, you had to leave early. I've not heard you sound like that in a long time. Yeah, it's like literally they were being so loud out there. We were just trying to watch Doctor Who on Discord, like like watch Doctor Who on Discord, and couldn't even hear couldn't even hear it because of how loud they were being. Yeah, it's just I look at it like this, Rogues. Things are gonna get better. I'm not gonna let them stop me from doing what I love doing. It's just I hate the factor that more than anything, it's just been a frustrating aspect because it's the two factors here. One, when I'm streaming and I can't stay focused because like they're being loud out there. Even like if you took out like all possibility of the mic picking up like the horns or anything, when they're being that loud, it's still disruptive when you're trying to focus on the game. So there's that whole aspect of it. But but the main thing that's been frustrating for me again is that I've made it kind of like bit obvious that I'm protective over you guys. I'm protective over my viewers. And that what I mainly say about that is that when you guys come on my channel, I feel like, my viewers are my obligation to make sure they're taken care of. And that's basically like it extends to wanting to try to make sure that your time is well spent. And also, if you're coming by here and spending money on this channel, even if it's just like a few bucks for me to buy a pizza with, or, you're sending me like, enough money to, to grab me a Pokemon booster box or something. Whatever amount of money it is that, people have like, put this channel, that's money you could be like donating to other people that, donating to others, you could be like, you spend on yourself, but, you're basically giving this time to me and also giving like, sometimes like the donations and everything that you don't really have to do. You don't have to be here. You don't have to be on my channel. You don't have to be sending money my way. But I feel like, as like my throne wish list thing just pops up right there, randomly. But it's just mainly when I don't want the time of like people to come by. When people come by and give me their time and money, I don't want it to be wasted. And I know there's those of you who say, well, it's okay, it's not your fault, it's not your fault, like, they're being like this, but it's still, when it's affecting me and I can't be at my best. Yeah. I mean, I recently, like came across like, as I said in my community post yesterday, I recently came across like some streams I saved from, back in 2017, back when I was on Mixer. And as I, kind of like, said, like, my Discord server, it felt like, what I saw, like, between, like, I streamed back then, there was definitely some parallels. I've grown, like, a lot more mature as a content creator. I've definitely, grown wiser and everything compared to how I was, like, first year. Like, I was streaming, but there's definitely feels like there's been, like, a spark that's missing. It's not to say, like, it's a spark, like, that's made it where I don't want to stream. Again, I love streaming. I've overcome way too much for me to just, like, give up on this, when this is, like, probably, like, something I put more time in than anything in my life other than breathing. Maybe eating. Yeah, I don't know. We're not going to argue, like, biology here or whatever. But point is, it's something I've been very, very dedicated to. And it's the reason why I've continued, like, to keep doing this, regardless of all the adversity I've faced, and literally losing just about everything and having to start over. All because someone wanted to be evil. But, like, I definitely could tell, like, compared to, like, back then, there has been a spark that's been missing in regards to, my delivery on my content then compared to now. And I've been trying to find that spark again. I mean, I know that I think a lot of it, maybe it's just I'm being too hard on myself. And it depends on what kind of games I'm playing. Like, obviously, I'm playing games like Doom or playing games that are fast-paced or playing games with my friends, you guys definitely see, like, the best of me. But if I'm doing, like, something like story, like, something like, this, like, when I was playing, like, Slay the Princess, definitely was kind of struggling with my commentary there. But, I mean, I know I still got the spark there somewhere. It's just, I think a lot of it maybe is just, it's just mostly it's been kind of like, buried by all their bullshit. All the stuff that people next door have been doing. And it's definitely, maybe that's what it is. Maybe as soon as they leave, maybe like, that sense of peace I'll get will be to where I'm pretty sure it'll definitely be a noticeable change. But it's just a matter of like, either when they leave or if I do, get moved to this other house I was talking about. Or both, because again, best case scenario would be like, they end up leaving soon, and then like I can have like a sense of peace until I move to the other house, and then that'll just be like a whole nother area where I have more space, possibly even have like a bigger streaming room for all I know. Who's to say what it'll be? Because I mean, there's like a lot of stuff that I don't have on display here that would be pretty cool to display and just have like a wider space to do so. But as long as I go somewhere where like the streaming room, like the potential for a streaming room is something like as big as this, if not bigger, I'll be happy. But I mean, it probably isn't even like evident like how much I've been stressing the fact you guys are seeing like, I haven't shaved. But also I'm someone like that back when I streamed, like, back years ago when I streamed, I was like shaving just about every week because I couldn't even stand like, being on stream, like, with any kind of facial hair. But over time, I've kind of like just gotten to where I don't really, care. But I do kind of like hate when I do kind of get like a bit of a beard going on. It's not really a full on beard or anything, but point is, you guys kind of see that I've just kind of like been like, like due to a lot of this, like past it, like for a bit, I've been in one, like, one of those no F's given, things. I'm just basically showing up. I don't care. Like if I got like, some facial hair going on, I'll shave when I shave. I do plan to shave this week, at some point. Because speaking of this week, last thing I'm going to like say about all this, and I'm going to call it on the stream here. Because like I said, I do want to get to the gym. I will be doing the Pokemon stream later, and I promise you guys it's going to be a completely different change of pace here. Let's just hope that they'll be quiet outside for once for this. Knock on wood. but you know, hopefully things will at least be manageable where I can do the stream properly. But without any like disruptions or anything like that. But like as far as like what's coming for this week, obviously like we're gonna be continuing like Pokemon, because we're down to the last two like main gym badges before I can go and take on the Elite Four. But of course, like Wednesday's gonna be more Chrono Trigger and the next episode for the Alice in Wonderland DLC. Which, if depending on how things go, depending on how big everything is, I might actually just go ahead and close out the Alice in Wonderland DLC and do like the last two things. But I don't know how big the Queen, like if we're gonna do the Queen of Hearts Castle, that's what it is for the final thing. We may do that too. But I really am excited for the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, stuff we're doing. But aside from that, my Destined Rivals Pokemon Booster Box is going to be coming in, so we're going to be doing an unboxing of that, which I'm extremely excited about. And then over the weekend, hopefully we'll be able to do like a proper stream of Phasmophobia to make up for the one I had to delete yesterday. Which again, I do apologize to you guys I had to do that. But it's going to be like a fun week, all things regardless of anything. I'm even actually kind of like looking like the way I've got everything in here with like the other lights on, because normally I just kind of like have like some other, like my normally when I'm streaming, show you guys this real quick, I have like these lights right here off like this, but I keep them on like that, like when I'm doing my Pokemon card unboxings for extra lighting or whatever. But honestly, there's a part of me that's considering like at first I was wondering if this was like too much lighting, but it makes all of my collectibles and everything pop a whole lot more. So I'm thinking moving forward, I actually might, for all my future streams, I might actually just keep these lights on as well. That's one thing I kind of like notice about like everything here. Everything looks like this. I mean, it means like with a total, there's like 5 lights on in my room now. There's my 2 like Elgato lights, my Logitech one right here, and then my 2 LifeX ones like on the this like desk lamp one up here, and then like my ceiling one. So I think I actually might keep so if you guys think it's cool, I might actually do that moving forward. It's just I think one reason why I kind of like turned them off, like was having them off, is because like in the past there were like a few times where I streamed and I kind of like got like headaches from all the lighting. But I think that also just might have been the house I was at, where there was like some stuff going on where it wasn't really like the most up to code health wise. Because I noticed that since I've been living here, I haven't really had like headaches as much anymore. So I'm probably just gonna like actually keep them like this so people can see like my collectibles a whole lot more, because everything definitely does pop. So yeah, moving forward, guys, we're probably just gonna keep the lights on like this, and if I do start dealing with headaches or whatever again, like I used to, I can maybe just like try to dim them a little bit. But anyways, I do apologize for how all this came out the way this did, Rogues. I try to like keep like things like this away from the channel for the sake of trying to focus on the content, entertaining you guys, and just trying to have a good time. But again, as the title of the stream goes, it was time to address this. The people next door definitely gotten like out of hand. Though they've been out of hand like for months. And I'm hoping things are gonna change soon, because you guys deserve me at my best. And I know I'm not like the best streamer out there. I'm just like a guy who enjoys gaming content, enjoys opening Pokemon cards, and who's been trying his best to try to like rebuild after like everything that happened that made me let's just say there was like a lot of loss that I wouldn't wish on anyone as far as like that situation. But again, once again, you guys go check out the blog on my website. It's not hard to find. Got it pretty like well like name like titled. But at the very least, I do have like another vacate. If all this doesn't ease up soon, again, there's like another house that I'll be hopefully possibly I'll be getting to move to. Just hoping that this does ease up, so I have to worry about like all this noise constantly. Because best case scenario would be like they leave, then I get to go to move to the other house like sometime maybe later this year or next year. But either way, at least I got like another vacation to look forward to, like around the fall or winter, so I can get out of here again for a little while. Even if they are gone and like they move across town by then, still me getting like out and having like another vacation or whatever is something that's just gonna be awesome to do it either way. Anyways, Rogues, I'm gonna go ahead and get to the gym. I've been like ranting about everything for about an hour now. I was actually gonna try like do this in about 45 minutes, but I appreciate everyone who's really who's still stuck around, and endured everything right along with me. I know I haven't really been at my best like mentally, and some of that stress is definitely shown. And it's not just the stress from them next door. There's like a lot of other stuff that's going on in my life that's been very concerning to me. But hopefully, maybe at some point everything will work out, like, to be better all around. Because like I said, if I do make some of this channel, I want it to be because I earned it. And if I do make some of this, I don't really care about having like viral amounts of fame and fortune. That would be awesome, just for sake of no one ever had to worry about anything again. But if I could get somewhere with this to where I just like, have a roof over, like I just like can, just have food in my mouth, roof over my head, and make sure that me and my friends, me and those I care about are taken care of. That's like, all I could ask for. And anything else would be just a bonus to it. But anyways, throat's dry. I'm gonna go and head to the gym and everything, and I'll see you guys sometime later for next episode for Pokemon. But as always, to those who aren't subscribed to the channel, deeply appreciate you doing so because we are getting close to that 1,000 subscriber goal. And well, if for whatever reason you like the stream, I mean, I kind of this is my outro usually for my streams lately. For whatever reason you like the stream, even though it definitely wasn't anything like normal to what I normally do, and wasn't really like the most upbeat subject matter. Definitely appreciate you like, comment, and sharing. But I also definitely appreciate more if you just go in like, comment, share on my other content that this channel is normally for. But until the next one, Rogues, I love you guys. I do apologize again for how stressful things have been lately. But a lot of it's just been because you guys give me your time, you give me your money, and I just hate the factor that all this next door that shouldn't even be happening. Just from people that are obnoxious and honestly who really need to grow up. Join my Discord server. It's just, I'm just really, I want when you guys come by my streams, I want your time and money to be worth it. And when they're causing problems, disruptions, and making where my streams aren't at their best, I've got a massive problem with that. But I'll see you guys later for Pokemon. Let's go Pikachu. You guys be safe. Much love. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching and thanks for hearing me out. I really do appreciate it.